What's going on, everybody, and welcome inside another edition of Bullet Points. I'm Mike Bunt, joined alongside Maniac. And Zach, it's nice to finally have a new updated Bullet Points intro. You said you were going to do it once they scored some points and got a win, and they did that this past week against UMass.
Another home game where they come in as a couple-point favorite and they take care of business out of the gate. I think you can control a lot out of the gate or, in your preparation for a football game. So I think it's very telling that in the two opportunities they've had to do so versus a quote-unquote lesser opponent, Lembo and crew have stood on their business and kind of taken care of it. So love to see it. Love to see the points. And we're only going to keep adding to that intro, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, it's going to be great as we keep getting some more clips for it. So right now, the Bulls are 2-1. They're sitting nicely after an impressive win against UMass, 34-3. Now, they were 4-point favorites before kickoff. We thought that they would both win, but did you ever see that UMass game being as comfortable of a victory as it ended up being?
No, I think we were talking about it last week, right? It was like kind of Vegas, and even fans didn't really know what to expect. The only thing you knew was that Sean Dolak was going to make a bunch of tackles, no matter what happened in the game. But for the second straight time at home, they handled their business. They took care of what they needed to. And I think that the one thing that, Lembo liked, from this past week was the continuity, that it wasn't like a fall off after a strong start to where things get a little, near and a little dangerous. It was a good effort by everybody. And what he mentioned in his presser on Tuesday that he also liked the most was that everyone, they had a great win on Saturday, 1 o'clock, they take care of business against UMass. And then everybody came in on Sunday at 3 p.m. ready to go, ready to get after this Northern Illinois team. So the operation is definitely clicking on all cylinders. And it seems like they're just taking care of the basic stuff. And that's a nice improvement out of this UB program, Mike.
Yeah, and we'll just spend a little bit of time on UMass because honestly, a dominating performance. We don't need to go too in depth, but my first real takeaways about the UMass game. First off, the defense, the Bulls' defense is very good. This is going to be one of the top D units in the entire Mid-American Conference this year. It's not just Sean Dolak; he's incredible. 5 tackles for loss on the season, a couple sacks. He's going to be lighting up the box sheet. The box score every week. Red Murdoch is also fantastic. He has 6.5 tackles for loss this year. Fuqua is great in the back end. How about Marquise Cooper getting a 100-yard interception return touchdown, the longest touchdown play in UB history? And technically, if they were playing by NFL scorekeeping, it would have been like 106 yards. I couldn't believe it. This defense just absolutely shut down the UMass offense.
Yeah, I think that, the funny thing, right, was that Linguist was supposed to be a defensive guy. And I think there were some frustrations from the defensive players and the units in what they were able to achieve. Now, there's still a lot of season left. There's no, told you so's, especially at 2-1 before you start conference play. But I think there's kind of a reinvigoration, especially on that side of the ball. And I think that's kind of how they've evolved, right? We said after 2 weeks, you just didn't really know about this UB team. Were they the team that lost, 38-0 at Mizzou, or were they the team that handled and took care of their business against Lafayette at home? Seems like closer to the first one. And I think the new mystery is exactly what is UB going to get out of a week-to-week basis from this offense? Because like you said, it seems like with the pieces they have in place right now, that defense is as close to a sure thing as this program has.
And then looking at the UB offense, the biggest question going into the year was, are we going to see any consistency in the pass game? Well, week 1 against Lafayette, it was solid. Week 2 against Missouri, it was a disaster. But you're going up against an SEC defense, a top 10 team in the country. That was expected. And then last week against UMass, CJ Agbana looked very solid. He hit a couple deep shots down the field, opened the game with a 40-yard touchdown pass to J.J. Jenkins. Didn't have Nick McMillan, who's going to also be out this week, from what I've been hearing. So I've been impressed by CJ Agbana. And then the running game, it's really been running back by committee. Entering the regular season, we thought maybe L.J. Henderson, Jaquez Barksdale would be the main guys. But Lamar Sperling, the underclassman, with a really solid performance, 86 yards, got a rushing touchdown. So I think that's the most encouraging thing by this team overall is that they've scored 30-plus now in 2 of their 3 games. And these are the type of teams that they really need to exploit and score points against. So I'm feeling pretty solid about this team. I know entering the year, there's a lot of questions. Is this a team that's going to struggle to get to bowl contention? Is this going to be a 3-4 win team? Could they be a 6-7 win team? I think I'm now leaning more towards this is going to be a team that's going to be competitive in the MAC.
Yeah, I felt that going in, and again, I keep hating to go back because I feel like we've done 3 or 4 episodes of this, and I've said it every single time. The 42-1 number to win the MAC absolutely flabbergasted me. Now I totally get it. You got a team in Northern Illinois that goes on the road. They win in the big house at Notre Dame. You got a team in Toledo that goes and just embarrasses an SEC opponent, right, this past weekend. So the MAC is doing it all. I totally get the number, but that just seemed like such a big number, such a big underdog. When you look at the quality of this UB team, they should never have been at 40-1 to win any conference. Maybe 10, 15, 20-1 or something like that with, the turnover in personnel and everything like that. But no, I think they're going to be a lot more competitive than people thought. And it seems like they're trying, like they're really trying to do something. Like Moling was talked about building stuff. Like when Lembo talks about it, when he talks about the game day atmosphere at UB and that meaning something and continuing to make fans feel like they're going to come and see a good effort and they're going to see a good performance from that team. It really means a lot. So I was very encouraged by that. Speaking of encouraged, I know we were a little bit worried about the offense without Nick McMullen. 9 different receivers there. Were you surprised?
No, not really surprised. I think right now this is a team that's just trying to figure out who their playmakers are. So, it could be anybody any given week. J.J. Jenkins is a guy that earlier in the season wasn't really on my radar, but there's a lot of different guys on this team. Chance Morrow, Victor Snow, Taji Johnson. You could look at the tight ends like Jake Orlando. At this point, I think Pete Lembo just wants to give everybody opportunities, see who's ready to step up to the challenge, and really give them opportunities to prove it to themselves come MAC play. And this is the first real test. In Missouri, I don't really count that as a test. It's an unrealistic opponent. It's a buy game. They're giving you money. But going on the road, taking on 23rd ranked NIU, I love games like this for UB because is NIU good? Yes. Are they unbelievable? No. And I think with their ranking, it's a little inflated because obviously they went on the road and beat Notre Dame. But it's a game where, honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if Buffalo gives them a challenge on the road.
And I think that line makers and, Vegas and the sharps in Vegas are expecting the same thing, Mike, because you look at it, 14.5 points. I mean, if I told you going into this season that this UB football team would be playing on the road at a team that beat Notre Dame and is coming off a bye, only 14-point underdogs really isn't that much to me. That does not feel like a ton as far as points and as far as expectation. I think if you're a better BETTOR going to the books or whatever, and you're seeing that, you're pounding Northern Illinois because you're thinking that's too good to be true. But I think they're tempting it. I think the UB is going to keep it close, and I think they're going to find a way to take them off of their comfort spot. I think that, at the end of the day, we got LD Sports asking about NIU obviously this week. It's about taking them out of their comfort zone, and that's going to be tough to do, Mike, because I know that Coach Lembo was harping on it during his presser and in his messaging to the team. I mean, this is a veteran NIU squad. They're just about as veteran as you come in college football, some of the stuff he was telling us.
Yeah, so let's break it down. 14-point favorites for NIU. I think that's a little high. I think not the Bills. I think the Bulls will stay within that. I think they could even stay within 10. Hopefully this is a competitive game going into the fourth quarter. And you look at NIU, they went 7-6 last year with Rocky Lombardi as their starting quarterback, a Michigan State transfer. I don't think this Huskies team is unbelievable by any standard. Miami, Ohio last year was the MAC champs. Toledo was better. There was a lot of teams. Ohio was better. Even though OU lost to them on the road. But there was a lot of teams in the MAC that were better than Northern Illinois last year. And so far, the Huskies, they beat Western Carolina week 1, and then they beat Notre Dame, which kind of elevates them to this unrealistic expectations. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if NIU beats Notre Dame and then comes back to earth against UB. And I'm not saying I expect UB to win the game, but I wouldn't be surprised if UB honestly did win the game. Right now, ESPN's FPI gives UB about a 21% chance of winning this contest. So it's
insane.
not like it's not like UB has no chance against NIU. And we're talking about this team. Let's just break down what they bring to the table. The starting quarterback, Ethan Hampton, he's a junior. He's been 28 of 39 so far for 526 and 6 touchdowns. That's a great start to your first year as a starting quarterback in college, averaging about 263 a game, 3 touchdowns a game. They're really led by their running back, Ontario Brown. He had his 28 carries, 168 yards last year, just under 1,300 rushing yards and 10 touchdowns. He had 225 total yards against Notre Dame, 99 on the ground, 126 receiving. He has 171 receiving yards total. Gavin Williams, good quality number 2 back. He had nearly 500 yards last year. Trayvon Rudolph, their most productive receiver, has been averaging about 50 catches per year. And Grayson Barnes, a solid pass catching tight end. This is a team that's scoring 35 points a game, which is 38th in the country. They're allowing 14.5 points a game, which is also 38th in the country. But a lot of that is just a 2-game sample size. In like I said earlier, and you know this as good as anybody, Maniac. Sometimes when you beat that team you're not supposed to, you have a coming back to earth very shortly after.
You have a coming back to earth, and let's face it, it's one of the hardest thing in sports because sports are so emotional. I mean, you see it on players' faces or results, whether it goes one way or the other. It's to stay even keel, which is what we were talking about with this UB squad coming in after their win. Again, are we measuring a win at UMass and a win or a win at home against UMass against a win on the road at Notre Dame? Of course not. But is it hard to stay even keel? I mean, Northern Illinois did not have grand aspirations going into the season. I do not think they were a team that thought they would be into the top 25 before the end of September for certain. And now they find themselves there. So it's up for UB. Again, like I said, to take them out of that comfort spot. And yeah, maybe like kind of catch them off guard. They might be feeling a little like too big for their britches after a big win like that. And yeah, it's up to UB. I mean, this is a chance for UB by translation to beat Notre Dame. So let's go do it.
And we're definitely going to play into that. If somehow UB does defeat Northern Illinois, we're going to have the tweet. I already have it. I should just save it as a draft. NIU greater than Notre Dame, UB greater than NIU, therefore UB greater than Notre Dame. I'm already ready for it. But
you know it.
You know what really gives me confidence that UB has a chance is it's the defense. I think they can hold the Huskies in check. You're going up against what I think is a top 3 defense in the MAC at this point in time. Miami, Ohio is up there. Obviously, NIU has a really quality defense. But this UB defense is as good as anybody in the conference. And when you're going up against the linebackers of Dolak and Murdoch, that sounds like that could be a law firm, Dolak and Murdoch. That maybe we should start something like that on bullet points for them soon. But
could be a good shirt.
It's going to be tough for NIU. If Dolak and Murdoch perform to what they're capable of, it could be difficult for NIU to run the ball at times. And we'll see. The back end of UB has had success. Fuqua, Cooper, McNair. There's a bunch of guys that have stepped up for this UB defense. So I'll put it like this. If UB can hold NIU to 27 or less points on Saturday, I think it's a coin flip of if they can win this game or not.
Okay, so that's your point. 27 points.
27 because I don't think they can get. I don't think the UB offense. 24 to 30 points is going to be tough for them to get on a consistent basis. So if this game is 20 or under, UB probably has a solid chance at winning. If this game is mid-20s, UB has a chance at winning. If it's high 20s and up, it's gonna probably be a loss. So I think that key area for UB is trying to keep them 17 to maybe 23 points. But even if it's like 24 to 27, possibility. But you need your offense to show up.
Yeah, anything can happen in MAC play. I like how you make it linear. It's all about the points or points against. I am going to go with the upset factor. I think Pete Lembo, if nothing else, is like your classic, barstool, like football coach, right? Like he knows his team is a double-digit underdog going into Northern Illinois. He knows, like all the moment. He was talking about his presser, how Northern Illinois has the same left guard on their punt coverage team the last like 2 years. And he said that's almost like an impossibility in college football because that's like your backup or like your third string, like left guard or something. So again, the guy loves football. And I think he knows that as a double-digit favorite, he needs to do, or underdog, he needs to do two things. One, they got to win the turnover battle for sure. They cannot make more turnovers than NIU at the end of the day. That's going to affect them on the scoreboard. That's going to go out. I think the other thing he thinks going in, we gotta bust a trick play. I don't think we've had a trick play so far this season. I would not be surprised to see some kind of halfback pass, triple reverse, something if we hit a big play or maybe after an NIU turnover to try and get a momentum switch. I think those are always the two like recipe things when you're looking for a road double-digit upset of things you need to do. And so I think those are the things they're going to target as a team. Again, you can't generate them. It comes from the effort. It comes from being in the right spot. It comes from game planning. But if they could do so, those are the things I think they want to target in NIU.
And it's one of those things where NIU, as I mentioned, I don't want to anoint them at this point in time. 7-6 last year. This is not an NIU team that's been crazy impressive during the Tom Hammock era. They're 26-33 under him during his time at NIU. They've had 1 9-win season. Like, this isn't the Paxton Lynch Huskies that were winning 10 plus games a year. I don't want to anoint them yet. I want them to earn it. The win against Notre Dame, incredible. Show me you can do it consistently in MAC play, and then I'll talk up this NIU team. I still think that Toledo is the best team in the MAC overall. I think the Rockets are better than NIU. They went on the road and they just whooped Mississippi State over the weekend.
That was a friggin' whooping. That was like, that was a game where back in the day they would have brought the whole pirate ship onto the middle of the field, not just the flag. Because that was a hell of a showing against Mississippi State. I was searching some of their fan base because SEC is just a little bit different when it comes to football. They were on suicide watch, and I say that with respect. Obviously, that's not a joking matter, but they were all miserable, could not believe what was happening because that wasn't just a win. Like, they were beating them down, but like what, 34-7?
Get to MAC school. Like, that's like humbling. Like, SEC schools, like they expect to beat everybody, even like the teams in the ACC and the Big 12. To lose like that, to lose to a MAC school is unacceptable for Mississippi State. To get blown out at home by a MAC school, like they might as well cancel the season for them. And then
that might be
like, this is one of those great starts to a MAC season where you have maybe the greatest MAC regular season win of all time with NIU over number 5 Notre Dame. Then you follow it up with a Mississippi State loss against Toledo. You had Bowling Green take Penn State down to the wire in Happy Valley. And even last year, my Ohio Bobcats defeated Iowa State. So the MAC schools are showing they can compete with some of these bigger schools, even after all this NIL and collective stuff. But then on the other side, you have Kent State that loses to St. Francis and was trailing Tennessee 65-0 at halftime, where that game probably could have been 100-0 if Tennessee really wanted to do that. But yeah, look at these logos. This is going back in time.
I know that first off, I love the throwback logos. This is one of the best things John Fuller ever did. Shout out John Fuller. But I love this logo. I know that UB fans get mad because they got the new crystal and they look at it as disrespectful that they never had the new. I love this logo. This logo is tough.
Yeah, it's sharp. Fans don't like it because it represents a very
dark time
and dark period in the history of the athletics department. But that is early 2000s written all over it. And I remember that logo playing NCAA football back in the day. So I'm always going to be a fan of that logo.
Throwing an option there. Let me ask you a question because I just scrolled and found this reaction. Would you be happy or pleased as a UB fan with this result? If you got some Ogbonna movement, you got the usual from the defense. They cover the spread, but they lose on the road at NIU.
I think year one of Pete Lembo, going on the road against a very quality NIU team, if you could cover the spread, you look solid and you fall short. I don't want to say happy, but I don't think I would be disappointed. I would be accepting of that. I would feel like, okay, you
You're
went on
you're
the
right.
road.
You're not happy because you lose. I think what I meant from a happy terms is that I think that a 30-20 loss here keeps them ahead of
Yeah,
schedule,
yeah,
which
yeah.
they are versus these 3 games, right?
Yeah, if you lose this game 30-20, at the end of the day, I think I'm saying, you know what? This team is going to be competitive in the MAC. This team should be going to a bowl game, and you just went on the road against a team that defeated Notre Dame 2 weeks ago, and you kept it competitive. I would accept it. I would take that result right now. But there's a confidence I have right now that maybe I'm irrational because the over under is 43.5, and then you factor in the line is 14. That's saying they're expecting this to be like a 29-15 type result, 29-14 win for Northern Illinois. You know, the way I kind of feel about this UB team right now is if they just had a little bit more offensive experience, that this could be a 7-8 plus team in the MAC with what they have right now. Like this defense is going to keep them in games on a weekly basis. I'm going through the schedule last year, even the games that they were losing down the stretch. The season finale.
There were so many games where they were ahead 7-3 in the second quarter, like things like that, and they just let it slip away on the road, or there were a lot of questionable game management there.
Just hear this stretch from the last 8. This is the last 8 games of the season, so this is actually 2/3 of their season. They lose the final game of the year, 24-11. You held them to 24. Most colleges are going to win when they hold a team down to that point. 23-10 to Miami, Ohio. Most teams are going to win when they only allow 23. You lose 20-10 against Ohio. That game that I was there, they dominated the Bobcats in many aspects in the first half, but just couldn't score points. Kent State win 24-6. Bowling Green lost 24-14. Defeat Central Michigan 37-13. Defeat Akron 13-10. This is a UB defense that was really good last year.
They never allowed more than 24 points all of back play last year.
The only so Toledo, they lost 31-13, the fourth last game of the year. But yeah, outside of the Toledo game, they didn't allow more than 24 points in a MAC contest, and they only won 3 of those games.
I think that's why ultimately they went with Ogbonna without knowing anything. First off, I think they've been rewarded in the early returns of a 2-1 start. And when he has that opportunity to make plays, I think he's done so. But I think he also just offered more of a variability to the offensive game plan, Mike. And when they knew coming in that they were going to have faith in the defense, they would have a strong defensive unit. You need that variability to win your games, right? You don't want to go down firing with a game manager like you saw. Like what? They lost the game 13-10 last year. I just don't see that being the case with Ogbonna at QB because he's just going to make a play or two for you along the way with that defense playing well when you keep a team to 13 points, and it's going to eventually get you a win. So very interesting there. But yeah, are we cruising into predictions?
Yeah, let's get right to the predictions. I just
want last week we were both on the under. We had that sniped. We had that even though UB put up 34. We knew that something was stinky about that under for sure.
We did have that under. I just wanted to finish one thing off. Your point about Ogbonna. The reason I love Ogbonna being the starting quarterback, despite some of his struggles sometimes in the air, is that he has a decent deep ball at times. He has playmakers that can make plays. And then secondly, if plays break down where he doesn't have anything, I trust that he can get things done with his legs.
Yes.
It's almost like Josh Allen when he was a rookie for the Bills. You knew he had the arm to do things, but if he didn't trust it, he could still get it done with his legs. And with Snyder in the past and some of these other guys, just a little bit too limited when things weren't working within the structure of the offense. But we're going to start out with you, Maniac. Do the Bulls have a chance on Saturday against Northern Illinois? What is your prediction?
This is going to sound similar to my Mizzou prediction I think that I made. I got UB being within a score at half. They're ultimately going to fall 24-20. It's going to be a heartbreaker, and I think they might actually have an opportunity to win the game. Maybe, I don't know if it's going to be they play better than NIU or maybe they see some momentum in the second half if NIU goes into a lull. But I got UB winning this game, covering the spread, but losing this game 24-20.
So I am going to be very similar to you. I'm going to have Northern Illinois win this 24-17.
Mhm.
I think UB keeps this close. This is a
Yeah.
ball game late in the second half. The only reason why I give NIU that touchdown advantage is because I just don't know if the Bulls have enough offensive firepower to keep up or to even really score against better defenses. Against the Lafayette's of the world, against the UMasses of the world, yeah, they can go for 30. They can put up points. NIU, while they're not a world beater, they went to Notre Dame and held the Irish to 14 points. I
Yeah.
would be a little naive to think that UB is going to go into NIU and then suddenly light them up for 30. So I think this is going to be under once again for the points. I think NIU will not cover. I think this line is at 14. A lot of people are going to look at it as 23rd ranked NIU who just beat Notre Dame, take on UB. They're going to say, oh, easy cover. I think this is one of those classic, it stays within the points. But it's just it's still a little bit too much to ask UB to win this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, a little bit too much. The buy factor for me too, just in case you were thinking about getting carried away with the, a UB upset. It's just so tough. They're gonna have a full week to prepare. Everyone rested up. I would love it. I would love it, but I do not see UB pulling this off. By the way, all else I gotta say though is fuck Northern Illinois. I still remember that 2018 MAC championship like it was yesterday.
You know what's worse? When it happens to both of your schools. And you know what?
Yes.
And it was the same school that did it to both of my schools. Northern Illinois did that to my Bobcats back in the day. And then they did it to the UB a few years later. And it's just like, oh, and you know what? I was watching that UB game and with the big lead. And I remember saying, you know what? Northern Illinois, I can't take this for granted right now because Northern Illinois did this to my Bobcats a few years ago. And then watching it actually happen a second straight time, I still have PTSD from that. Like I can't.
Yeah, we let our guard down a little bit. At
I've watched so
29-10,
many.
sure. We let our guard down
championship
a
game
little
losses.
bit.
It's awful. But Maniac, thanks for joining me. This is
Real quick before I let you off the hook.
Okay.
Your Bobcats got a shot in Kentucky this weekend after a brutal loss to number 1 Georgia.
I don't think they have a shot. I will be in Kentucky for that game.
Wow.
So that'll be exciting. First time ever going to an SEC venue. So I'm looking forward to that. Honestly, the only thing I'm hoping for Ohio in that game, the line is 18. Keep it under 20.
Cover.
Just try to cover. If Ohio loses something like 37-20, I leave Kentucky celebrating a win. And that's how I felt with Syracuse. The line, I think, was 17.5, 17 points when Ohio opened the year at Syracuse. And the final was 38-22, and the Orange fans were going home like they lost the game. So I was like, you know what? I'll accept it. That, you know what? For people that aren't college football fans, like the pro-only people, they'll say, how can you enjoy a football game when your team loses by like 14 points or 17 points? Well, you know what? There's 130 plus teams in Division I. I know that my team is closer to the bottom than the top. I'm still gonna enjoy it when for a brief moment I feel like they're with or like fighting with the teams that are at the top of college football, even if the inevitable ends up happening and they lose by 20. And that goes for UB and Ohio or any other smaller conference school. Like when they're playing Missouri, when they're playing Kentucky, you know they're not going to win, but most of the time. But like you feel like at least if they compete, we at least belong there. And I guess maybe that's a loser mentality to some, but
it's not a loser mentality. It's just realistic. And truthfully, it makes the moments like NIU Notre Dame, or if we want to go from our storied history, UB Arizona. It makes those moments all the more like
magical.
Peak of a mountain magical. Yes, for sure.
Like a championship.
Sure.
Like
UB Arizona gets looked back on like it was its own championship.
I don't care that it's a first round game. Like that I will always celebrate that. The equivalent of like the Sabres advancing to like the Eastern Conference Finals. Like people will be like, what's the best moments in your life? I'll be like, okay, the Sabres going to the Stanley Cup, the Bills going to the AFC Championship. I'll talk about my Bobcats going to the Sweet 16. And then I'll say like UB winning a MAC championship to get to like 8-5. and UB defeating Arizona and Arizona State. Like that's the great part about MAC sports and college sports is that, yes, UB is never going to win a national championship, but there's other moments that'll be equally great. And one day UB is going to win one of these games going up against a top 25 team. And maybe this is the week they get their second win ever against a ranked opponent. I'll say this. I think UB has a realistic chance of winning this weekend. And that is more than I ever thought I would say about UB facing a top 25 team in the last few years.
Yeah, put a button on it, right? UB has a shot against the top 25 team in September of Lembo's first year. I think they're way ahead of schedule. I think that's something for UB fans to be excited about.
But, Maniac, it's time to wrap it up. We've talked Sabres. We've talked UB Bulls. We've talked everything, and there's more to come for Trainwreck. But we appreciate everybody watching this episode. We're looking forward to this game this weekend.